Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vitruvian Man podcast. Today, we have a very, very special episode. This is the podcast centered around self mastery. I'm your host, Zach Shankin. I will say you can follow along the program and myself on Instagram, the program at Vitruvian Gentleman, and myself at ZDSCHENKEN. If you have any thoughts and have been enjoying the podcast thus far, please DM me and share your thoughts. I love to communicate with you guys. But like I alluded to, today is a very special episode because I'm joined with the first ever guest of the show, Josh Mclaughlin. He is a current student at Georgia College, a member of the Jamaica national lacrosse team, an entrepreneur who built a marketing agency from nothing to six figures in just 4 months. Josh, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you. How are you, Zach?
I'm good, bro. I'm super excited to have you on, and it's definitely, I'm still a little bit nervous about like having the first guest on, but I'm very excited. And obviously was like really excited to have you be interested in what I'm working on and excited to have this kind of discussion today. So yeah, how was your kind of day been going? What did you do for Father's Day this weekend? How's it going?
Just hung out. So my dad actually was traveling with my brother for a lacrosse tournament up at Yale. So it was just me. So it just was a good weekend, just hanging out with some friends and got a lot of work done. So it was just casual weekend.
Cool. Are you what are you doing over the summer right now? I assume, are you taking any classes part-time or no?
Yeah, so I'm taking a few classes. I think I'm taking like 12 hours total.
Damn. That's almost a full.
Yeah, so it's like a full semester, but it's 2 4-week segments. So I took
Okay.
2 classes and then 2 classes now in the first 4 weeks and second 4 weeks.
And what are you studying?
Finance.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it's been a good summer. Done a lot of just like smaller things with a few of my friends just to make money on the side, like yard work, stuff like that. But really just building up this marketing agency and the Great Day project as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll definitely get into both of those. I have some questions for that later. But for those that don't know Josh and like how we initially know of each other and know each other, we both went to the same high school. Josh is a current college sophomore, and I just graduated my 5th year from Georgia Tech. So we didn't go to school together in college, but he was in my youngest brother's grade. Shout out Michael if you're listening. But we all played lacrosse, and so kind of adjacently knew each other through that. Although I don't think we ever shared the field together, which I guess is a shame because you're definitely a grinder, and we needed some help when we were playing, dude. We're not the perennial high school powerhouse by any means. But yeah, I wanted to kind of kick things off with like asking what you think your fellowship experience was like. It's a pretty unique high school environment, I think, given like I graduated with 90 kids. How many kids did you graduate with?
98, I think it was.
Okay, so I guess we're growing slightly, but what was that experience like? Like, what was your journey to? Were you always in private school education? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I've always grown up in private school, Christian school environment. So in elementary school, I went to a smaller school. I think the most I ever had in a class was 8 kids.
Damn.
And so we go to school Monday through Thursday. We'd be done by like 1:30. And then they would obviously send us home with a lot of homework because it was like a half home school. And then 6th grade, I made the transition to fellowship. We moved from Kennesaw, 30 minutes, to Marietta. So I could go to fellowship and then just played sports. I mean, that was kind of my how I had fun.
Yeah.
So played lacrosse at fellowship from 6th through 8th grade, and then through high school as well. But in high school, I ran cross country as a freshman, and then football sophomore through senior year. But yeah, it's a very interesting environment. I would say it's nice because you know everybody, but it's also like
tough because you know everybody. Yeah.
But definitely made some of my favorite things were the friendships that I made, the like leadership skills that I developed through sports and just being able to know everybody. Obviously, you get to develop that if that's the type of person you want to be. So it's kind of an environment where you decide if you want to thrive or if you just want to sit back and live that private school life. So it's really you choose your road.
Yeah, I definitely felt like when I look reflectively back on it, I think the smaller school environment, like specifically ours, you're limited heavily by like what the school can provide to you resource wise. But like you said, it's a kind of a choose your own adventure in that like you are exposed at a younger age. Like you have tiny class sizes. So like building, for instance, like a skill that I think is like uncommon in young people, at least like the people that I met in school. Like people our age and younger have trouble like talking to adults, but like I felt like at least myself, and I assume you're the same way from like coming from fellowship, like you can talk to an adult pretty confidently because it was less of like power structure. Like you're right in front of them, right? It's like always kind of like a discourse. And so as much as I feel like fellowship was like academically lacking, and you know, most of that comes from me like having to upgrade like tremendous rigor coming to tech. It's like a big jump, but I think like for what they lacked in like resources, like class selection, all that stuff, I think that you make up for in the like softer skills, which ultimately I think like yields positives in the long term.
Right. I agree completely. Yeah, I think another big thing is just like leveraging the people around you, right? So you're not only at a private school for a private school education, all that sort of stuff, but your friends and the people around you and those families have also made it. So like
it's true.
That's something that I didn't realize until like later on in high school is like I'm sitting around the families that I want to be like when I'm older.
Yeah.
So like leveraging that and building those friendships, like all those dads and moms like want to get to know you and like will help you no matter what because you're all in that same community. So that's something that I kind of like was like that would be very good if I was able to learn or even just pick up on a few things, not even pursue a full relationship, but just pick up on a few things that all these people are doing who are successful.
That's a great point. And it's something like my dad kind of like would always like kind of nudge me like, hey, you should talk to so and so's dad. He like started his own business because like I've been like interested in being an entrepreneur for a long time, and so many, like you said, like there's a lot of dads that did that, like they're self-made men and like they're successful in whatever respective field, and it doesn't have to be something that I'm directly interested in, but like that was a wealth of knowledge that I feel like I didn't tap into. It's not all but exhausted. Like I still would feel comfortable like reaching out over LinkedIn or like even through somebody's parent, like to reach back out, and I think that is something I plan to do moving forward. But yeah, I didn't have that perspective. I think it's like I feel like I may have like missed that in like my high school days alone, but yeah, definitely like leveraging your environment, that's like really key. I was gonna a question I had is like obviously like I kind of alluded to earlier, our high school lacrosse program wasn't exactly a powerhouse or anything like that. And so how many coaches did you have in your 4 years?
Like different head coaches?
Yeah.
I had 2.
Okay, so you're it was a little less tumultuous because you had Coach Lou for what, half of your time?
Yeah, so we had Coach Lou and then Coach Leo.
Okay, yeah. So I think it was the ship was starting to settle out. But like in my 4 years, I had 4 different coaches, and it was anarchy. And so I was curious what your favorite lacrosse memory from high school was. It could be like a fun practice thing, a game moment, or could just be like a niche like fellowship like kind of gritty moment.
Okay, so this I don't know. One of my coaches. I want to get him fired.
Yeah. So, we got to be careful doxing people on here.
Greatest coach I've ever had. I love the guy. He is probably the funniest man I've ever met.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
And there was just like he would just say out of pocket things that weren't like mean to the kids, and it wasn't things that were like you really shouldn't be saying this to the coach. It was just like you would never expect this man to say some of the stuff that he says. I know it's kind of like a vague explanation, but just having like that relationship with the coach, that it's also like you're my friend, and there's still a respect boundary there.
Sure.
But that creates, when you're in a position of leadership as he was, he gains so many people's respect just by being funny and being a friend to everybody. Which I think is huge, and that's why like I think I still reach out to him almost on a weekly basis just to see what he's doing.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's a great guy. So I think my highlight was definitely my coach.
Okay, that's a good answer, and an answer I certainly don't have from my 4 years. Like I have a number of gripes. I mean, like I think what I ended up taking away from it is that like understanding coaching in general is super player specific, and also like being good at the respective thing, and it like translates to like teaching as well. I felt like at tech, like you're surrounded by like all these professors are doing world-class research. They're like writing the textbooks that you're reading, so like they're the smartest person in their field, but it does not directly translate to how you can teach it to a freshman, like an 18-19-year-old kid. And I think it's the same in coaching. Like you could be one of the best athletes in your sport, like we could use LeBron as an example. I don't know if he's a good or bad coach, but like just because LeBron is like the best player in the NBA right now does not mean that he's the best coach that could like directly translate to that. MJ's an example, right? Like we've seen MJ not be super successful at the GM level. and like even like hasn't been like moved into a coaching position or anything like that. And so it's not always a one-to-one there. And so yeah, learning a lot about like leadership through like bad leadership at that time, and then coming into tech, getting a more established coaching staff, which not devoid of issues, but certainly more established. And then getting like opportunities to lead like on the team, like in from like a captain perspective, like later on. But yeah, as far as lacrosse, like you were obviously becoming better and better, like really taking it pretty seriously. And I know that you were considering pursuing it in college, like at potentially like a Division I level. Talk about your decision to defer away from that. Like, why did you feel like you stepped away from that? Was it because the offers weren't sitting where you wanted, or at the schools that you wanted, or was it a combination of factors?
So my thing was always, if I can get into a better school than I could get into without lacrosse, then
Okay.
I'd go play lacrosse. So that's kind of how I've always been growing up and like pursuing that and working for that. And then it got to the point where COVID hit my junior year, which is like prime recruiting time.
Sure.
I was in talks with like coaches all across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of coaches kind of like cut their classes that I was talking to at a pretty small number.
Yeah.
So then it was kind of, it just didn't feel, it got to the point where it didn't feel right. So there was a bunch of schools that top tier schools, and I was like, I don't know, because lacrosse can't give out full scholarships.
Of course.
And so I was like, I don't know if this is worth the money. Do I want to go spend $300,000 to go play lacrosse at college when my true passion is in building stuff and just being like grinding stuff out and being an entrepreneur and doing, like following exactly what I have a passion for.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of where I play lacrosse for fun, right?
Right.
Lacrosse isn't ever going to pay the bills.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
So it's kind of like, okay, I'll go play club and focus on school and my entrepreneur stuff. But then also I got presented with the opportunity to play for Team Jamaica.
Yeah.
So once that kind of came up, I was like, all right, this is something I can play in for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I'll have my time to be able to do the stuff I want to do and focus on school and travel, all that sort of stuff. But also I'll be able to go play lacrosse whenever I want and have something to work for in lacrosse as well, which was huge. So yeah, there's kind of everything kind of aligned right when I needed to.
Did the Jamaica lacrosse, and then for those that are listening, Josh is not what you would imagine a Jamaica lacrosse player looks like. And by that, I mean he's white. He has kind of snuck in the eligibility by, is your mom has citizenship there?
So my mom has citizenship. So right now I'm in the process of getting my dual citizenship and passport.
Okay. And how long has this been going on? Like, when did you first get like either reached out to or you reached out to them?
So I reached out back in the World Games in 2019, I think.
Okay. So was that, you were freshman year or?
Freshman or sophomore year?
Okay.
Sophomore year.
Beginning of sophomore year, yeah.
Yeah. So it was, I reached out and then they had a U19 World Cup the next year in 2020. And then obviously that got canceled.
Yeah.
And it's pushed back to this year in Ireland.
Yeah.
So got on the team, went to like a training camp to officially get brought on the team, and then ended up making the senior team as well. So we kind of have both of those teams going back and forth.
Nice. Very fun. And what's the practice structure like? Is that here in Georgia? Like, where do you train?
So a lot of the stuff is on your own.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you have people around, then you meet with those people and train. But
yeah.
A lot of it's more training camp based, which has been in the States for a while now.
Okay.
Just because most of the people live here.
Yeah.
Whether it's they're playing in the pro league, there's a few NFL guys.
Yeah.
College guys, just everybody across the board mostly lives here because college lacrosse is here, right?
Yeah.
So there's a few camps that go on in Jamaica, but most of everything's here, and you kind of meet for the weekend, 3-4 days, and train almost on. I think it's depending on the time of the year, it's every month or every other month.
Okay, I was gonna ask like both frequency and then also like I know the PLL and it's kind of like OTAs for the NFL, but like immediately preceding the like regular season, they'll have this like training camp, right? Like an intensive 2, 3, 4 days where they can scrimmage, get the teams together. But like that's the first time the teams are really meeting and are allowed to meet at a team capacity and train together, plays, schemes, all that stuff. I was curious, like given that it's a world game stage, and I mean Jamaica. No shade to you guys, but not the powerhouse team, right? Like it's not US, Iroquois, or Canada that like traditionally dominate, but an up and coming team for sure. And like definitely competitive, and especially like the more like American talent you guys can draw in, and as the great game grows, like it's the talent will eventually get spread across multiple countries. But
And
like
it's growing there rapidly.
really,
I think it's probably based on what I see, the fastest sport growing down there, just
in
like it was
Jamaica,
here.
how
Yeah,
many
so,
times have you been down there?
so we haven't been down there as a team yet.
Okay,
But like recently, they've been sending a lot more like six down, gear down.
yeah,
They're getting all the schools to play, and it's just, I mean, every single person they give a stick to, they're going and playing. So
yeah,
it's like there's just a shortage of equipment to get
yeah.
everybody playing, and it's something that they love, and we're trying to get as much exposure down there as possible, and equipment down there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Lacrosse is like a tough sport to grow. It's so capital intensive, you know, like you can't just drop like hockey in Jamaica, right? Like you need rinks, you need all this gear. And lacrosse is kind of the same way, but like it's just scale the time clock back 50, 60 years. So it's like I think a huge growth trajectory. And like, obviously as a lacrosse guy, I want to see it global. And like, I think as we have the presence as the world games shift into sixes for the upcoming Olympics, like that's going to be great for the brand in general, but all very exciting stuff. Yeah, so that's a super cool opportunity. Obviously, like pretty unique. Who would you say in like sports growing up, and I guess this can even transition to like in life in general, would be people that you've looked up to and admired, like in general.
So, sports traditional answer Kobe.
Dude, yes, Kobe's my favorite
So I
athlete as
used
well.
to, I mean, just watching probably like every single Kobe clip in existence of
Yeah,
like not even just the way he plays, but just like his mentality.
yeah,
Obviously, is insane. Like all the books about him, all the different documentaries. That's that like Mamba mentality of going in at 4 a.m. when you have a game that night just to get better is like stuff that I try to apply, whether it's in sports or business too. Like that, it's the same mentality. It's you against somebody else. No matter what you're doing, that's how it is.
yeah.
Becoming the best version of yourself, whether it's spiritually, physically, in relationships, like whatever it is. Just always putting in that work, no matter what. Like you don't need. At the end of the day, sleep is good, but like you don't need 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, Kobe said something like sleep at the end, not in the middle, kind of thing, and or like rest of the end. Yeah, he was the first like celebrity that when they died, like I actually was like deeply emotionally affected. Like I actually like cried, like, and it's so sad because he was like as much as an impact he had as an athlete, I'm of the opinion just because of how intelligent and well spoken he was that like his impact beyond the game was actually going to be bigger
For sure.
than what he had on the court. And so like I think he was somebody that like was taken from the world. Like and we miss out on that opportunity because he was taken so soon.
For sure. And I think you can learn more from him than any other athlete. Just no matter where you are in life, who you are, what you do, like you can learn from Kobe.
Yeah, and he was so like well expressive too.
Right,
Like, you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like he didn't just do the work. I feel like that's the gap between like him and MJ. Like MJ like was a killer, but he didn't like wasn't super articulate in like his journey. And
Exactly.
Kobe has like all those like speeches, clips, interviews, all that stuff that like kind of makes the story closed. But I'm cutting your answer off. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it's not the Jason Tatum fanboy of Kobe, but
Yeah.
it's the typical like he had more of an impact than just the game.
Yeah, I agree. And then even so, like that's like within sports, but you obviously can be applied broadly. But like, is there anyone you've looked up to? I know, and we can dive more into the entrepreneurship stuff. What would you say is someone that you've looked up to? Like, why do you find yourself interested in entrepreneurship, like building businesses? Like, what about that is interesting?
Okay, so I have 3 or 4 people here. Well, 4.
Yep.
So, starting from the beginning, like closest people to me is my dad and my grandfather. So I'll start off with my grandfather. His uncle lived in Jamaica. My grandfather was born in Lebanon, and his uncle couldn't have any kids. So my grandfather's family said, "All right, we'll give you our oldest child if he's a boy when he turns 16."
Okay.
So.
And that was like a genetic thing, like he couldn't have kids,
Right,
like physically.
right,
Okay.
yes. So turns 16 after his dad taught him everything from just how to take care of whatever it is to building houses and just having that hustler mindset. So he turned 16, gets sent over to Jamaica, not really knowing too much English. And then he just starts building his way up from selling anything he could sell, he would try and sell it. And then got into real estate, built his whole real estate empire down in Jamaica. Was one of the most influential, powerful people down there. And then came up to America so that his kids could
Be born here, yeah.
And well, not even so. They're all the kids were born in Jamaica,
okay.
But for school and college.
Oh yeah.
They came up here. So definitely him, because I mean I've been around him ever since I was born. Working in, they have a coffee shop up here, a coffee warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom worked there, and he always taught me like, you come here and you work hard. Right?
Yeah.
There's no time to sit. He would get very, very mad at me if I was sitting down, or he would caught me sitting down, even if I was just waiting on something like the coffee to roast or anything like that.
Yeah.
He'd get very upset. Like, be productive while something else is going on. Don't ever just sit down. And it got to the point where I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and we brought in, this is one of the stories that he likes to tell, brings in a new worker, and he's like, all right, Josh, go teach the worker how to do everything. And me thinking I'm like some insane, like, not 8-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm just telling this guy exactly what to do.
Like a grown-ass man.
Yeah. I'm telling this guy exactly what to do, how to work all the machinery, everything, and he's like, this kid doesn't know what he's doing. And then it gets to the point where he's like, wait, like, actually, I need to listen to this kid, because, like, this is the only education about how this whole place works.
That's funny.
So just stuff like that. He was always like, you need to, if there's something that's going on, you need to figure out how to fix it. Whether it's like in your life or something breaks, like, you figure that out. You go ask people, but don't run away from whatever's there. And then another person, my dad, has been a very, like, inspiring person for me. Somebody who's taught me a ton, whether that's like whenever I would get hurt, for example, on the lacrosse field, he would never come out there unless I was like dying. I don't think he ever actually came out on the field. And
yeah.
He would never let me crawl off the field or like get carried off the field. It was always, you walk off the field.
Yeah.
You get up and walk, because you're not like, that's not what we allow you to do. So just stuff like that. And so 8th grade, this is probably like the most impactful thing that has ever happened in my life. At 8th grade, I went into that sounding really sad. 8th grade, I wanted to learn more about the stock market.
Okay.
So I went to him and was like, all right.
Him meaning your dad.
Right.
Okay.
Went to him and was like, all right, I want to learn how to trade stocks,
Mm-hmm.
where to invest, what to do. So he ended up teaching me a little bit about it in 8th grade. I think I was like 13 or 14. I was very young in 8th grade. So 800 fake dollars, make a Yahoo Finance watch list, write down the prices that you buy stuff at and the prices that you sell stuff at. I'll trust you. Like, send me text when all that happens. And that's how you make the money. But if you lose, like, you just pay a little bit of that. So just kind of break the ice of me starting to invest.
Cool. That's sick.
And then kind of like fell in love with it. I was watching like every single video
possible,
reading every single thing possible. Made my first $20, and I was like, I'm the next Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
So then it kind of went from there and built up into like more day trading stuff, options trading. And so that's still something that we talk about every single day. Is kind of just like where you're investing, what you're thinking about the market, especially the market in this time is like,
no kidding. Yeah.
We have debates about it every single day, which has been very cool. So there's just a bunch of stuff that I've learned from him business-wise. He started a few businesses and been very successful with those. So learned both on the entrepreneurship side, been a great father, and just like as trading and doing everything. He's been very influential. And then another guy, Blake, 4 to 8.
Yeah.
Has been very influential in my life.
Dude, shout him out on the pod, bro.
Blake, if you're listening, thank you for everything. I think about our calls all the time. What you've taught me means a ton. So Blake always tried to DM this guy, right? He's like big personality on TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
Had a Discord called Wise Guy, and that kind of was my first introduction into like investing at a completely different in a different style,
different type. Yeah.
So he kind of taught me that, and so with DM, I started this company called Nuclear Bolt, and it was a gourmet coffee brand marketed directly to traders and investors.
Okay.
So I'm DMing this guy like crazy. I'm like, hey, Blake.
Try my coffee.
Yeah, just trying to get a response.
Yeah.
Doesn't respond, and then finally like, okay, I want to send you something. Don't even tell him what it is. Send him a put together box, handwritten note with everything that I had to offer. Like literally one of everything in this box. Probably was like the most expensive thing that I've ever put together.
Yeah.
Ship it to him. He gets it, and he was like, wow. He shot me a text, and I saw the text like, hey, this is 4 to 8, and I was like,
no fucking way. Yeah.
It was literally like better than LeBron texting. Yeah. It was better than LeBron giving me a FaceTime call.
Yeah, well, not actually, but
I don't know. So, got into that, and he got on a FaceTime with me, and it was kind of just like
introductions, like
just introduction, just get to know each other, taught a bunch, gave me a bunch of advice, and one of the key things that he said was like, don't worry so much about like making so much money now that you forget to enjoy the experiences you have now. Because at the end of the day, like I'm still in college, I'm still 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff that I can do now that I can never do when I'm 50, 60, 70, even if I have all the money in the world.
Dude, I just saw this. I'll let you get back on the mic, but I just saw a clip of a quote from Alex Hormozy, and he said when he was in his 20s, he wanted to be a millionaire, and when he was a millionaire, he wanted to be back in his 20s. Exactly. And so, like, yeah, I completely. Anyway, I'll let you get back on that. But.
Exactly. So, like, that to me has stuck with me. Of like, this is what I love doing, but also like, I still need to hang out with my friends and do all the things that I love. Travel, like, this allows me to do that in a different way, but it's still so important to just be a person still.
Yeah.
So he's been a great role model. I mean, that dude's living the life.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, and then last one, this is probably every guy's like, this business person is my guy, but Elon Musk.
Okay, yeah.
I've been following Elon Musk like way before all this Tesla stuff.
Sure.
Well, not before he created Tesla, but before it's like blown up to be this big, and he's been this big of a personality. But just the way that he, started with PayPal, sleeping on the couch with his brother, trading off his coding, and just made I think it was like $22 million, and reinvested every single penny into himself. Like the next company could have completely failed, but yeah, exactly. And he put everything in and was like, all right, I'm gonna do something even bigger, and then does it again. And then does it again.
Yeah.
And then does it again. So just like that's been something. Not only what he's created is so great and made such an impact on the world, whether you like him or not, like you cannot deny the fact that he's made a huge impact on the world.
Yeah.
But just the way that he goes about himself and the fact that he's always investing in himself. And one clip that I heard him say was, when he was trying to start SpaceX and go get his first rocket, they went to Russia to get his first rocket with his business partner. And Russia was like, all right, we can't like sell you the rocket. He's like, well, what do we do? And Elon goes, well, we're going to build a rocket. And his business partner's like laughing. He's like, all right.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah, right. We're going to build a rocket. And Elon's like, no, we are building a rocket. And that's kind of like something that I think is so sick. Like here they're faced with this problem. And the voice of reason, if you will, is like, we're not going to build a freaking rocket. Like, it's not going to happen. And Elon's like, no, we are. I think that's like the most.
Yeah, that's sick.
I think that's so sick.
Yeah, I think like just like hearing the like insurmountable like obstacle that is, hey, we don't like we're not going to sell you a fucking rocket for. I'm sure he was also ready to drop whatever they were going to ask in money, and then he's like, okay, like pretty much just immediately moving to like task oriented, like solution mindset. Exactly. Like I can't buy the rocket, I'll build the rocket. Like NASA doesn't believe in like funding this program and like putting a colony on Mars. Like I will put humanity on Mars. Like it's stuff that like operates on a scale that is hard for a lot of people to understand. And yeah, I mean, I agree that like he's a polarizing figure because of, like the political, like he's at this point, he is like, so it's like past pop culture, past entrepreneur. Like he's playing with markets. Like it's,
I would venture to say he's the most powerful person in the world, arguably. Not necessarily.
I mean, it's definitely, the argument can be made.
Right. Not necessarily, like, I mean, you think of sultans and kings and different countries.
The president of the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, there's something to be said when you can say, all right, here's this cryptocurrency and it does this, or this stock and it does this.
Yeah.
Like there's not too many people that have that sort of power.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to like life at large is a people problem. And so when you have the captive attention of a huge percentage of the people on earth,
Right.
then that is that is power.
Right.
And so the attention of the people that make the world spin is the power that he has. And yeah, like with the advent of like the internet and being able to reach all corners of the earth, super, super influential guy. Like pretty crazy to think about. Yeah, like not only the stuff he's built and the impact that those like physical things will have, like pushing EVs like 20 years faster than they would have happened or more, right? And then like talking about, hey, like whatever this climate crisis thing is, like if the earth is an exhausted resource, like we need to have a solution. Right. So like let's figure out where we can go. Like,
and all the other stuff he's doing with it, the Boring Company, and doing like problem solving by, all right, let's build roads under the ground.
Yeah.
Solar city, like so just everything you can imagine, he has his foot in.
Yeah.
And he's changing the world.
I agree. I think he's a very, you can look, like, I think people choose to just be offended in general because they would rather be offended and it's easier to take a stance against it. But I choose to look at it, like, take away all the, like, political stuff. Just look at what the guy has accomplished. Like, that is a human being.
Right.
And just one dude that made a decision and, like, took a risk. And it's crazy.
Exactly. And what you have to think about is, like, what's the difference between me at 18 and Elon Musk at 18? Not necessarily literally me, but whoever's listening to this.
Yeah.
An individual at whatever age and Elon at whatever age. The difference is Elon pursued something and went after it at all costs, and that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ultimately the difference of becoming one of the richest, most powerful people in the world and becoming somebody who goes and works their 9 to 5 and goes back home.
I completely agree. I mean, yeah, like people will always, like, to play devil's advocate, somebody hearing that would be like, refute, like, well, yeah, well, but I don't have like a 0.01% intelligence and I didn't have all these resources. Like, yeah, but choose to like take I guess like a inventory of what you have been provided. And there are probably some other measurables that you have like higher than him, right?
Exactly.
Like he didn't come necessarily from like the most stable background. Like he also wasn't like all this like social and like pseudo charisma that he's developed is like, it's very learned, it's very practiced. He's only now becoming somebody that like can have real open conversations and not be super weird. Like the dude literally like was so strange and like clearly wasn't like a social butterfly when he was young. He was very isolated. Like, and so a lot of those things are intangibles that you may have and he didn't have. So ultimately it's like you can choose to look at it and say like make a million excuses, or you can say like, all right, what do I have in my tool set and available to me, whether it's physical resources or who I am as a person, and then what am I interested in? Like, let me just attack that direction and see what happens. Like I'm of the opinion that like assuming you're at average for intelligence, like you just have to be at average, and based on statistics that's most people or above, then all you have to do is just continually work in one direction and then something will yield positively. It probably won't be on your timeline or the result you necessarily initially imagined, but certainly something positive will work out. And a lot of times it's like the people thing, I'll go back to that. It's like it's, you know, in the direction that you're trying to churn in this one direction, but somebody bumps into it and they're like, I think this is pretty interesting. I could tell you are a high caliber person, but like, I'd like to bring you onto my thing. Or like, have you ever thought about doing it this way? And like those different people may open up that new avenue. So yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. So I guess moving on with some of these other questions I have, we might get a little deep. Is that something you're okay with? Okay. So what is, your favorite part about yourself? And then conversely, what is your least favorite part about yourself and why for each? Radio silence.
Favorite part of myself? Actually, I'll start with the opposite. Least favorite part of myself, it takes a lot for me to stay focused because I get so excited and like I see that I can do so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I'm starting, all right, sweet, this is awesome. I'm gonna focus on it. I'll sit down, stare at the screen for however long. But then like I get a notification, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Then I'll be like, my mind will start wandering to that place.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that I've always struggled with. And it's just hard for me because I'm so like goal driven and dream driven
Mm-hmm.
that I see something, I'm like, that's what I want. like my number one thing my goal right now is to have a Tesla. And it's like I'm pursuing that Tesla. And whether it happens or not, like that's my driver.
Yeah.
So I've been able to kind of tone that down in finding one thing and setting like this is what I'm going to do every single day.
Okay.
So I think that's very beneficial to have, like to be able to write down something or just know like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, eat this food, spend this time in this or this like religious book or anything,
Sure.
And kind of have a routine and a checklist is huge. So that's helped me stay focused. That's something a skill that I've developed just recently.
Yeah.
Like as in of 2022.
Right.
That's just, I mean, changed the game for me.
Yeah. Just kind of like narrowing down or like funneling all that energy into like direct tasks. Exactly. So it's not just like this passionate like push in any direction. It's like, all right, how can I attack like one at a time?
I'm not saying like put all your eggs in one basket, right? That gets draining. That's not, you want to enjoy your life too.
Yeah.
But don't put 5% in 10 different places. Put like all your eggs in the basket of like having a relationship with the people close around you, your girlfriend, whoever it is.
Yeah.
All the eggs in the basket of like, these are the 1, 2, maybe 3 ventures that I'm pursuing. But really having that one that's like your main focus is key. And then just being the best you, which I know is something that you're really have an emphasis on right now.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely with what I'm trying to create with this program, it's like very centric on when you strive towards becoming the best version of yourself and also like are in that active pursuit, like you kind of alluded to, it's like this ongoing thing. It's never, you don't arrive. It's definitely like the process, but as you're incrementally becoming more of exactly who you want to be, it will attract the life that you want to be. Like the best you means that you're also the best entrepreneur that you can be. It means that you're the best partner that you can be. And like the people around you deserve the best version of you that you can give them. So like, that's an easy motivator. It's like, all right, the people that I care about and love that are surrounding me, they deserve my best. And so what does that mean? It means that like, I'm attentive and intentional when I'm with them. It means that I allocate time directly towards them. I'm present when I'm with them. I'm in a good like mental and physical space so that I can be like a positive force. I listen intentionally, all this stuff. They deserve the best. And then also you deserve the best. You should wake up every day feeling good. You should go to bed feeling good. You shouldn't wake up hungover all the time. You shouldn't wake up tired, lethargic, sore, like back pain. Like pick whatever you wake up with that like is uncomfortable, like address that somehow, you know, like I think we have the ability to, and we were meant to as like people and humans, like thrive. Like we have the ability to thrive. So don't just wake up and be like, my back hurts. Like it always has hurt since I turned blah, or like had that one injury. It's like your body isn't supposed to hurt. Pain is your brain telling you something's wrong. So, I mean, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but yeah, like definitely the pursuit of the best self will also auxiliary create the best life around you.
You should be excited to wake up every morning. Like it should, every morning going to sleep should feel like it's Christmas Eve. You're waking up on Christmas morning the next day. So frame your life around that, whether it's something you're building, the people you hang around, yourself, like be proud of yourself and be happy in who you are. And so many good things will come from your life if you live every day just excited to wake up.
Yeah.
And frame your day around that. If you have a job that you don't like and you dread going to that job every day, do something to change where you are in your life, whether that's apply to 50 other jobs or start that side hustle that you've always wanted to start that you think can be the next big thing. Whatever that is, make yourself proud and make yourself happy so that you wake up so excited. Like, I wish I woke up 5 hours earlier.
Yeah, I completely agree. And since starting this program thing, like that's that for me. Like I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about like, what am I going to post this today? Like what kind of like content can I create? Like how am I prepping the program in the background? Like setting up client calls, like getting guys like excited and into the program. And yeah, like it makes me excited. Like I am enjoying the job that I'm currently in, but I know that that's not where I want to be long-term. And it's no knock to the job that I'm in. It's honestly an incredible opportunity, but I just know that my passions are aligned somewhere else. And so like, I have to pursue that. And so building that on the side, like it makes me excited for my weekends. And the weekends, like, I think it's huge if you are in that like cycle of 9 to 5, like, you know that your Monday through Friday, unfortunately, is going to be taken. What are you going to do don't use the weekend to escape your current reality. Use it to build the life that you want, not escape the life that you
And
have.
if you are using that to escape your reality, newsflash, you don't deserve to have that weekend to escape your reality. Like, if you're working all day long or all week and you're dreading that, and the weekend's like, all right, I'm gonna get drunk and escape my reality. No, use that weekend to get ahead and get out of that reality that you've been in all week.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's got to be hard to hear for a lot of people because I think that is their reality. But I definitely think it's like it's so important and it's like a huge part of just any amount of like self development. It's like the steps of addiction or whatever. You have to get to the place where there's an understanding of self and an acceptance. So like take an inventory, write it down, take some time to think about it. Like, what am I doing on the current basis? Like, step out of autopilot just for a little bit, an hour or two. Like, take some time to yourself and think like, all right, like, do I enjoy? Or maybe the best thing to do is just write down like, what part of my day do I love? And for some people, it's like, I love my lunch break and I love going to the gym after work. And that's fine. Like, write down, even if it's the little parts, or if it's like, I love all 9 hours of my job because I teach and I love being with those kids, or I run a like dog daycare thing and I love being with animals. Like, whatever it is, like, make sure that you take an evaluation of like, and what is the parts that you love, and then try to reframe the rest of your time moving forward to be more of that and less of the stuff that you hate. And it may be, you may look at it and once you see it on paper, that's when you can start to see the disproportionality. You may be like, fuck, like, I mean, when you think about if you're zeroing Monday through Friday, 5 out of 7 days is what, 83%, 87%. That's it's insane, right? Even if it's just 80% of your life, you're trading it for the 20 that you actually truly get to live and do whatever you want on the weekend, whether you're a travel person or you like to be at home, do puzzles, read, whatever it is. You're literally getting 20, and people like just no one like is freaking out about that. Everyone's like somehow okay with it. And I think that like the unfortunate but like easy way to frame it for people is like money, because people seem to be just like super hyper fixated on that. Okay, what if I told you you only get 20% of your paycheck?
Right.
Everyone quits that job. Dude, life is a non-renewable paycheck. Like, you're not trading 80% of your fucking week to get 20. You're not trading 80% of your paycheck to get the 20. So don't do it with your time. You can't get it back. Like, and if that is your current reality, like, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm like in a 9 to 5, and like, I don't hate it. I don't dread it. Like, I enjoy it. I work with excellent people, but it's not the life that I want. So I'm choosing to use the time that I have in that 20% and really try to build the life that I want. And I encourage people to like, even if you're going to stay in a job working for other people, it's not a problem. You just have to find the one that is meaningful and fulfilling to you.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with working 9 to 5 if that's what's fulfilling to you.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of like meaningful career paths out there. Like, I think it goes back to the people thing. Like, a lot of like highly satisfied people are people who work in jobs that are with other people. So that's like people who work in marketing, HR, sales, teaching, any of the stuff that is like very human facing, I think is meaningful, but like, and easy to find meaning in, I guess. It's just, it gets kind of like dicey when you get into like middle management, software engineering, like stuff where you're like more removed from people, or like at least the humanity of people. Cause it's like, there's a difference between like getting on multiple calls a day and being like, how was the weekend, Bill? Like, what's the weather like where you're at? Like, that shit is soul sucking because it's fake, it's performative. Like, both people on the other ends are just like, haha, like, we're on this Zoom call, we got to be nice, but like, it's not like that's not a meaningful human connection. You're not getting to touch what that person's passionate about, and you're not getting to outpour what you're passionate about. But yeah, that was quite the tangent. So yeah, and then did you get to the favorite part about yourself?
No,
okay.
So, favorite part, I would say recently, as in like the past 2 months.
Okay.
I've been like able to actually feel like I've been like proud of myself in a way, which I think is proud but not complacent.
Yeah.
So whether that's in my relationship with my girlfriend or my family or my friends or my business partners, anything, being proud of yourself is just key to performing in any part of your life. And like doing stuff to make you proud. Like, wake up and go to the gym at 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 5 in the morning, whatever it is, if that's what makes you proud. It's going to suck the that first week, that first 2 weeks, that first 3 weeks, but making yourself proud in those little things and proving stuff to yourself is how you're going to become happy and be able to perform in any sense a lot better. And that's something that I've been able to find. I feel like I had a while back, but I feel like I found that again. And I've been so much happier and just been able to perform way better.
Dude, I think that's really important. The relationship with self. Like that's like the story of my like quote unquote self-development journey thus far, is just creating a good relationship with yourself. And I mentioned it, I think, in the first podcast, but basically, like, when you make promises to yourself, like a New Year's resolution, or I'm going to go to the gym this week, or whatever it is, and then you don't do it, subconscious thought pattern that you can't trust yourself. You're literally lying. Like if I told you, hey Josh, we're meeting tomorrow to record this podcast, and I just didn't show up, like that affects you. But like, I'm going to show up, right? Because I promised it to somebody else. So show up for yourself, promise yourself something and show up. And then on top of that, like, yeah, like building that's something that you're proud of. I think for me, training has always come easily because like I love sports, and like pushing myself in the gym is easy, but like controlling my diet has always been hard. My relationship with food has always been hard. So like make sure that I go to bed at the end of the day, like not like having binged on a bunch of bullshit, or like just being proud that like, hey, like I stayed disciplined today. Like I ate well. And like that feeling is way better than the feeling of like crushing like a half container of like Oreos, or like scooping a bunch of fucking peanut butter. You know what I mean? Like, and I have had like difficulties throughout my time with like binging and then like restrictive eating and all that stuff. And so finding that like, I think that you touched on a good important part, is that relationship with yourself, like being proud, and you're not doing it to like force yourself out of like a normal behavior. Like it's important to eat what you love and all that stuff. And we don't have to talk too much nutrition right now, but it's like, yeah, like ultimately like that relationship with self is so important, and it bleeds into everything else. Because when you meet somebody that like clearly is insecure, like the projection is immediate, right? And that's why like the self-development space I think is hard, and it's one of the most important parts of this program in general, is just building the community that like everyone's on the same path trying to do it together. Because like I did it alone, and it's so fucking hard to be trying to do something that's like positive for yourself and like aligned with what you're interested in, your passions, and then everyone's like, what do you mean you're gonna like write affirmation statements? Like, dude, let's come out. Like, you don't need to work on that tonight. Like, you don't need to stretch before bed. Like, bro, let's go like play like a drinking game. Like, let's go hang out. Like, you're so weird. Like all this stuff, like it's really draining, and especially when that's people that's like close to you and then like you love and care about, and they just don't see the mission. It's really, really hard. But anyway, very tangential. I struggle to stay on that main line, but I think those were very well-spoken answers. So if you could go back and make one critical decision differently in your life, what would you do? And we don't have to get into the like butterfly effect. Like I wouldn't change anything because it would make me somewhere different than I am now. But like assuming you result similar to now, but only like positive benefit, do you think that you would change anything? Obviously you're super young, so I don't know that there's like a ton of.
I would say honestly, just going back like a few years, like right on that brink of like, all right, sweet, this is who I am. Like kind of once that hit, and been like, all right, this is what I want to pursue. I want to pursue like that freedom, making myself proud and everything. I think I would kind of try and focus on doing that a lot earlier, because I think that would just have prevented a lot of things that I went through, like relationship-wise with whoever that may be. So just like realizing that earlier, that like being proud of yourself and loving yourself is like key to everything, would have been huge.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and it does speak. I mean, we kind of just touched on it, but like, it's crazy how, I don't know. I learned that through like my past relationships, is like when you start to lose your identity and your mission and your stuff that you love and care about, and like who you are, basically in your identity of the relationship. Like Zach is a good boyfriend to so and so, or like I am a good partner, and like if your identity becomes too wrapped up in that, like not only does there become like a lack of attraction from the opposite end, because it's like I fell in love, or like I became interested in Zach because he was on his path and super passionate and doing this grind, but like he's becoming like hyper present and defining like way too much of himself in this relationship. Like that's not attractive, first of all, and it goes both ways, like male to female, or like same sex attraction. Like it doesn't matter. Like when you you fall in love with the other person for who they are, not for who they become in the relationship. And so maintaining that sense of self, that sense of direction, I think is super, super important. The last of the deep ones I got written down here is, what is the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome in your personal life?
All right, so 2016, my mom was pregnant with my younger sister, Alia. And that's why I have this on my necklace. I know you guys can't see it on the, if you're listening, but it's an angel wing. So basically that was like a hard time for my family and I, as it was kind of, she was going through a lot of different complications.
With the pregnancy?
Yeah. So it was kind of like a very, very troublesome time. My dad ended up starting working from home. My mom was just on the couch all the time because she could not physically walk. And it got to the point where she got put into the hospital for several weeks. Got pints and pints of blood transfusions every day.
God.
And it got to the point where it's like, all right, it's either you or the baby. Like, it's going to be, like, there's no decision. So then a few days later, it's, like, very scary. Like, nobody knows, are both of them going to die? Is one of them going to die? Like, us as kids were, like, trying to stay as, like, strong as possible. Yeah. Especially me as, like, the oldest brother. I was like, all right, I'm just going to be, like, show no emotion. I'm just going to be like a rock. And that kind of, like, bit me in the ass a lot years later. Just, like, feeling something, there's nothing wrong with that. It's, like, how you
process it.
Especially, like, being somebody for, like, obviously as the oldest son, like, I'm very, very close with my dad.
Yeah.
It's like being somebody for him, for my siblings, for my friends, for my cousins, anybody. I should have been a lot more open instead of being like, oh, this doesn't faze me, like, whatever. So ended up, so much stuff was just going on that Ali ended up being born and then died in my dad's arms like 10 minutes later. So that was kind of like a big hit to my family.
Yeah.
And it was something that, like, that was my little sister, and like my mom could have died. So like that was something I took very to heart. It kind of like destroyed my whole family, and I was like, all right, I have two options here. I can either like sit down and cry about this, which there's nothing wrong with, but because of my mentality and because of like my grandfather who I grew up with, it was more so like, all right, life goes on. Like, I can still feel those things. It's still fine to feel those things, but life goes on. The sun's still up. Everything else in the world's still going. And it took some time for me to tap out of like, all right, I'm a rock. I'm going to keep doing this till like I can have those feelings and keep pushing forward and turning the page.
Did you feel like that mindset shift came because of like someone you spoke through it with, or is this just like trial and error on your internal end? Like,
so more so like learning from my grandfather as a kid of, all right, whenever anything would go wrong, like his siblings would die, like literally anything would go on, it was, all right, what's next? Like, what difference does that make? Why can I stop here because something awful happened to me, but the person next to me can keep going because nothing bad has happened to them? And maybe it was so much so to a fault that I felt like I had to be that rock.
Yeah.
But that kind of helped me, like, even now, all right, I'm faced with a challenge. I failed. What's next? Like,
right.
let me prove myself now and let me get better now. Because, I mean, you learn from everything bad that happens to you. Whether it's like, oh, I shouldn't have been in that situation, or just anything intangible that you could have learned makes you a better person. And that should excite you for what's next. That's kind of what it did for me and has proved to be for me in the rest of my life.
Do you think, like, did you ever like go through, I guess, like dealing with like the emotional stuff, like processing it? Has it just been like solo, or did you go to therapy, or like?
So my parents went and like talked to people and all that sort of stuff. And then for me, it was like, I was so much of just stone cold to everything that I like act like it never bothered me. And like I would go through my life and there would be days where that's all I would think about. There'd be days where I never thought about that. And then kind of wish I went and talked to more people about it, because it's been a lot harder like later on in life, like now 6 years later, I'd say like 2 years ago, it started to hit me more like, wow, that happened, and I was like not there for my mom or my dad. Like, it just felt like I didn't care.
Yeah.
So that's been something I've been able to talk to them about. Like, I did care, but this is just what I was trying to do. Which, I mean, you just learn with as stuff goes on. But
yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, that's like really powerful. Thank you for sharing and like being candid. Obviously, like, I don't know, the trials we go through in life like give us the strength to endure, that like old quote. And I think that will be something that like you look back on as certainly like an unfortunate hardship, but
right.
like very like formative. Do you feel like obviously like you're very motivated to be successful? Like what is, like you kind of like briefly mentioned on it, and I don't know if it was just like the words you chose or intentional. Like, are you trying to prove something to someone else or yourself? Like, do you feel like, why do you feel like this like drive to just like match like your grandfather's like achievements?
Yeah. So I have two things: proving it to myself to be the absolute best that I can be.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's like I think it was like 8th, 9th, 10th grade. I was like really obsessed with becoming a Navy SEAL.
Yes,
and,
dude.
Like, I would watch all the videos and be like, all right, I'm gonna try and do that.
Yeah.
Like, just small things of like, all right, I'm gonna do this many push-ups at this time of the night and like have an alarm. It was like really like kind of weird looking
psychotic.
back
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you were a dweeb.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, all right, I want to prove that to me, kind of have that freedom of like, all right, if I have a child who like, let's just say is severely like impaired, I don't want all that pressure to be on my wife or like on that child. Like, I want to be free when that time comes to like contribute wherever. And that's kind of been shaped by what happened to me. But also just like my grandfather came from absolutely nothing, worked his ass off to get to where he was. My dad came from nothing, worked his ass off to get to where he was. It's kind of like a lot of my cousins and stuff are very like, all right, we'll just go through the motions. But for me, it's like, all right, they worked, like my grandfather worked his ass off so my mom could have the life that he wanted her to live. My dad now works his ass off so we can live the life we want to live. Why am I just going to sit back, right? Like, the least I could do is be the best version of myself for both of them, especially my dad, because like he does so much for us. That just being my best, like, I don't want to be I want to be somebody who he like knows he contributed to and is very proud of.
Kind of like the fruits of all that labor for him, like the
Exactly.
the consummation of all that. Exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, and like I assume like myself, you like want to be a dad yourself one day, and so I'm sure that's like a huge motivator as well.
For sure, and like to be able to contribute that, and like I don't want, dude, if my kids are like just doing nothing and just living off of my money, like that's like there's no problem. Like that's what I work for, right? But it's like I want you guys to like be proud of yourselves too and contribute to the world. Like you don't even have to, every dollar that you own, if you want to give it away, I will like subsidize that. Like it's about making yourself proud and just being a greater person than like I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I thought a lot about that. Like ultimately my life goal is to just be an excellent father one day. And I've thought about, like kids are very expensive. So like that's kind of a huge motivator of wanting to make a bunch of money so that I can provide for them. But ultimately, like it is so much, like the development I'm doing now is like as a person, like processing trauma, like dealing, like understanding myself, like trying to be a good partner to whoever my eventual wife will be. That stuff is more important, like being a present father and like it's more important than giving your kid a small loan of $1 million. Like much more important than that is giving your kid a dad and like memories and like being present in the home, like, and like someone that can look at like and be a superhero to them for like their first few years and like ask them for advice when they get to high school and into college and never be afraid to have a conversation with people they can laugh with, like look back, like that is so much more important than any amount of money I could ever accumulate and just give to somebody. Like I don't want my relationship with my kids to be this business exchange. Exactly. I want to teach them some of the lessons I've learned so they can like avoid the pains that I've had. So yeah, I think as I've like thought about a lot like parenthood in the future, and I'm not anywhere near it, close to it right now, given that I am completely single and have no children, but just think about like in the future, like wanting to just provide them with the value of the lessons, right? Like that is infinitely more valuable and will serve them in their own life far more than any amount of the money that I could possibly give them. I guess my question, I haven't asked you this directly. So for those that don't know, Josh, the reason he's on this episode, other than just being a killer, clearly, from what you've heard in this episode, a cool dude, is he was the first one to join like the Vitruvian Man program, and I'm excited to have him in it. So I'm curious, what made you interested? Like, why did you want to join?
Okay, so I've been trying to build like a circle of just, like-minded people that just want to go out and be the best person they can be and the most successful that they can possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that's difficult as an 18-year-old
Yeah,
freshman.
you're like trapped in your college circle.
So it's very, very difficult to build that. So that's kind of something I've been like just messaging random people on Twitter, Instagram, different connections through like my dad, friends, just like, people all across the board, whether they're 16 or 75.
Yeah.
So then when I heard about what you were doing, I was like, this sounds like exactly what I'm trying to surround myself with.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like on that journey of building, like being able to become proud of myself, it was like, all right, this is the big push at the end of like perfect timing for right at the end of my journey. I get to start a journey with a bunch of people, 20 people around me.
Yeah.
And just being able to get to connect with that circle, and just become a group of 20 just killers is going to be extremely exciting. Can't wait for that. And just the different ways everybody's going to grow and be able to connect. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people that become best friends.
Yeah, dude.
A ton of people who become business partners. And I think it's going to be one of the greatest opportunities. Like, listening to this, you could present it.
Dude, I agree. And I like, that is a non-paid promotion for those that are asking. Josh is paying me to join the program. So I appreciate the kind words. And I think I was so excited. Like when we talked, so a question I got on Instagram, Grace asked, why do you think Josh makes a good Vitruvian man? And like, I think the episode thus far, if you've made it this far, is self-evident, but based on just like that statement right there, I think like you have a unique intuition of the people I've talked to thus far on what the long-term scale and goal of this can be, like this collective of just like winners. And it's like a lifetime access to that, right? Like the first group, like it's a 12-week program. And I think the value that's going to be in that for the development of self is very, very high, but way more than that is the people that you get to surround yourself with and then have access to forever. And like, yeah, like we've talked a little bit about like the long-term like business plan and like visions and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I think that group is so exciting and like finding it is hard, getting people to like commit to that. But I feel like once we find that group and whatever the first group starts at, right? Like whatever that number is, it's going to get it, like those people will help find the next and then the next. But yeah, long-term, it excited me tremendously to see your excitement, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm super excited to kind of build this thing together and have you be like that first guy. I think it'll be sick to be able to call back to that. Like that's such a clouded thing for you. Like I'm smiling and like I think it's exciting. People may think it's goofy now because they're thinking like nothing's been built yet, but like pray on my downfall, I fucking dare you. I just think it'll be super cool. But we're coming up on, you got a family dinner here soon, so I'll rapid fire close off with a few questions. Actually, I'll just do one. I'm stealing this from Tim Ferriss, full transparency. He has an excellent podcast, big fan of a lot of stuff he's put out there. But one of his rapid fire questions he ends his podcast with, and I will ask you, is if you could put one message on a billboard for everyone to see, what would that be and why?
I have a screenshot. Can I get out of this?
I don't know if you want to break it. You gotta do it off the dome. You don't want to break the interview.
Okay, super cliche. Like
it's okay, dude.
This is like weird to hear. It's gonna be weird to say, but like there's this tweet that I saw and I screenshotted it. It's like, be that motherfucker. Everybody wonders who that is when you walk through a door. Whether it's like how much, like whatever, how jacked you are, how like just presentable you are, the way you talk, the way you like radiate positivity, anything, be that person who people are like,
Who the fuck
guy?
is that guy? Yeah.
That's kind of something that's like hit me and like has been my like motivator recently. Of, like, not even for the like clout and like pride of that,
Yeah.
but just be somebody that not only you're proud of, but everybody's like,
something special.
That guy is that motherfucker.
Like, yeah, like what's up with that, dude? That's. I mean, first of all, gangster. I wish you could credit the OG tweet.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can put it maybe in like show notes or something. I don't know, but that's a great one. I guess we will end on that. I think that's a good stopping point. Josh, it's been so fun to have this first guest of all time, first Vitruvian man in history. Hopefully many more to come. And I certainly think this begets a follow-up episode, maybe post-program. You can talk about like before and after. We didn't even get to ask like expectations. Gosh, there's more to touch on for sure, but we'll wrap up today's episode. Call to action to everyone who's made it this far. First of all, thank you again for spending your time. Follow along the program and the podcast at Vitruvian Gentleman on Instagram and myself at ZDSCHENKEN on Instagram. If you enjoyed, DM me thoughts, ideas. If you want to be a future guest, think I should take somebody on, let me know all that. Josh, do you have anything to plug before we go?
I would just say, if you're interested in becoming the best self, literally sign up for this. This is huge.
Dude, people are going to think I'm paying you, bro.
So, I mean, I'm excited about this. I've had a lot of conversations with Zach. I think the people that are going to join are going to be huge. And I just think there's a ton to come from this. Small investment for unlimited reward here. So definitely talk to Zach about what he's offering. See if it's for you. He's paying me for that.
Yeah, we'll have to do some sort of commission, bro. That's good.
Check out what he has going on here, and yeah, it was a great time.
What about yourself though? What do you got going on? Anything you want to plug? We have some amount of captive audience. I don't know how many people will listen to this episode, but
so I run a social media marketing agency. We deal from a ton of different brands, restaurants, different like pharmaceutical companies. So that's called Upper Hand Marketing. It's just Upper Hand Marketing on Instagram. And then Great Day Project. It's just at official Great Day Project. That's going to be huge. Christian brand. We're just trying to spread the word that every day is a great day to be great because it's a gift from God, and God's got you. So that's huge. And then my personal Instagram, if you want to reach out, is Josh.
I don't know. You're at, bro. There you go.
Mclaughlin 4, if you want to check that out.
I'll try my best to link all the stuff that Josh has just plugged in the show notes. Thank you all for listening. Remember that your time is your most valuable resource, and thank you for spending a little of it with myself and Josh today. Memento Mori, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Vitruvian Man podcast.